that down, guys. Let's move on to this, shall we? Well, the DCU is now off and running. Superman's out, and it's spectacular. Still think Man of Steel is my favorite Superman movie.
Sure.
But I love this Superman movie. I think it's all types of wonderful. And they accomplished the mission. Go over great with the critics and go over great with the audience. And they did both. And now it's even profitable. So a little cherry on top for them. But as we cross this doorway now, going into the DCU, somebody asked me an interesting question the other day, and I thought we'd make a topic out of it. They asked me, what do you think are the main lessons James Gunn is bringing over with him when looking at the defunct DCEU? Let's call it what it is, the failed DCEU. I liked a lot of the stuff in that DCEU.
I did too.
But it did fail. Just because I like it doesn't mean I won't call it like it is. What are some of the lessons that took over? And I started to think about it, and I thought, you know what, this would make an interesting topic on the show. So I want to present to you, if you will, what I consider to be the 5 main lessons that I think James Gunn needs to glean from the things that went wrong with the DCEU as he's now launching and has just launched this DCU. All right, let's go over to the classroom for this. The first thing I'm going to suggest is an obvious one, a coherent singular vision. God bless AT&T Warner Brothers, which is different from this Warner Brothers, because this is back when AT&T used to own them. God bless them that they had this thing of, to us, the filmmakers are king and queen. Let them do whatever they want. That's great, unless you're making a shared cinematic universe that's supposed to have some idea of, consistency. That's supposed to have some idea about where it's going in general. That doesn't mean every movie has to interconnect, not at all. But if you're creating a shared cinematic universe, have some sort of a thing. And the reality is, AT&T Warner Brothers DC never had a creative head. They said this guy's kind of in charge, and then 3 weeks later, a different guy was in charge. Remember, for about 6 minutes, they said Ben Affleck was going to be the creative director.
When Man of Steel was made, it was Nolan and Zack Snyder together.
But Nolan was quickly didn't really have anything to do with it.
Of course.
But that was the vision at first, right? And then, so they never really had it. They've already started out the right way by having, yes, Peter Safran there as a co-CEO, but bringing in James Gunn as your vision head, as the guy who's going to give creative freedom to everybody. We'll talk about that in a second, but maintaining a singular direction, a singular vision about what this new world is going to be. So that's one they've already done. All right. The second thing is this. Don't populate your world with characters. Build your world around your characters.
Billy, you got to change that. Build.
Oh, Billy. Billy,
that looks
your
like
world. No, that's what I'm going with. I'm going with Billy.
It's a Swedish.
Build your world around characters. Look, I am a big fan of Batman versus Superman. I don't give a crap what anybody says. I have a lot of fun with that movie. Do I acknowledge its shortcomings? Absolutely, I do. But one of the criticisms that I've heard about it that I have to concede is that it never really felt like they thought that movie out, right? It just felt like they had this, we want this epic DC world where heroes battle monsters and blah. And it just kind of felt like they then just populated the movie with characters.
It's a collection of great scenes that don't hang together in a coherent narrative.
I won't disagree with that overall. For me, the great scenes still elevated enough that I had a good time with it.
I'm with you.
I mean?
The opening of that movie is one of my favorite things ever. Ever.
And the Nightcrawler intro at the beginning of X-Men 2. I think those are the 2 greatest openings to comic book movies ever. I mean, I love that Bruce looking at Super. That was so good.
It's so great.
But it did kind of feel like, okay, we've got this DCEU. Let's start throwing in characters. It never felt like they started with the characters and let the world build around them. Now, it looks like they're off to a good start with that with Superman, because that movie is all about the character and all about the characters they're doing. But they need to continue to do that as they move forward. When we get Supergirl, don't just have, hey, we want this big space epic out there, and let's drop in Lobo and let's drop in Supergirl. Let's populate it. No, build around them. Make them your core. Develop your stories from there. If they can do that, they're off to a good start, but will they continue on that strong start? That's going to be the question, and we'll see where they go from there. All right. The next thing up is sounds like it's the antithesis of point one, but it's not. Give creative freedom within the vision. I don't think, look, if you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a template, Kevin Feige is the most intrusive studio head there is. Everybody talks about studio interference. There's never been more studio interference than for Marvel because Kevin Feige intimately has his hands in everything. But when you talk to a filmmaker like Ryan Coogler expressed it the way we always did, but he expressed it best. He said, the thing about working with Kev is that, he tells you where, like, the scope of the world, and he tells you exactly where things need to be and where things need to end off. And then he says, go crazy. Tell your story. Do what you want to do. But here's the parameters. The illustration I've always made with that, Rob, is I've always said Kevin Feige makes a sandbox and then says, get in that sandbox, go nuts. Do what you want to do in the sandbox. Just stay within the boundaries of the sandbox. And with Warner Brothers, the AT&T Warner Brothers and the DCEU, it just always felt like a free-for-all. And then, despite the fact it was a free-for-all, them saying, oh, the filmmakers are king, the studio would still come in and just meddle randomly without a creative vision.
Well,
and it was suits rather than creatives.
David Ayer's Suicide Squad is the biggest example of that.
Yes.
What a, if you watch, I don't know if have you ever seen him on the John Barenthal, his podcast?
I did the pod. Yep.
Oh my God. That is he's scathing. And I just feel for him. I would just release the Ayer cut.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't want the Ayer cut to be released. So there's that. All right. So again, they need to really focus on that and they need to do that well. Next thing is this. Embrace a variety of tones and genres. Don't look, again, Man of Steel is my jam. I love Batman versus Superman. I love both versions of Justice League. You can't love both versions? Fuck you. Yes, I can. I love them both. So
you shouldn't.
But here's the thing. They tried to infuse a singular tone throughout everything. Shazam broke the mold a little bit. They had some divergence here and there, but just like our real world, right? I can talk to one friend and it can be the silliest, most ridiculous, whatever conversation, and then I can have a conversation with somebody about existential crises. Tones vary from moment to moment in our life. Genres of our life change from moment to moment. Your cinematic universes should be no different. Now, again, it looks like they're off to a good start. James Gunn has come out and said, there is no single tone to the DCU. Every movie is going to be its own thing. We got a body horror coming with Clayface. Peacemaker is going to be very different from Superman. Lanterns is going to be very different from Supergirl. Now, it's one thing to say it. Can they embrace it and actually carry that out? That'll be key. Last thing is this, and this is one everybody will agree with. Quality over quantity. One of the things that they often were, fair or unfair, AT&T Warner Brothers was often accused, again, fair or unfair, of constantly trying to play catch up with Marvel. They were just trying to be where Marvel was without doing the things to get where Marvel was. And that clearly created issues, both in front of the camera and behind the camera and in the executive offices. James Gunn, again, it looks like they're off to a good start, but it's easy to say, it's harder to do. James Gunn has done the easy part and is saying the right things, right? He's saying, we are not going to announce a release date or officially announce any movie until we have a 100% completed script that we are absolutely happy and thrilled with. We're not going to do any of this stuff. It's only when we got something that we love. Okay, great. Again, Rob, easy to say. What happens when a couple of Warner Brothers board members give him a call and say, hey, we noticed Supergirl overperformed. That's great. I think next year we'd like to have 2 or 3 of those. Is James Gunn going to be able to draw a line in the sand and say, listen, when I came on, you told me I could run it this way, whatever, or have one of my many AMC conversations, which was, hey, when you brought me on, you said I could do this. You don't want me to do it anymore. You fire me. Otherwise, keep the hell out of my face. Will he be able to do that? Because it's easy to say. It's another thing to do. So, Rob, the 5 things that I'm going to propose here that are the lessons James Gunn, and it sounds like he knows them in theory. Let's see if he can put it into practice. Needs to bring over from the failed DCEU is a coherent singular vision. We already know they're doing that. Don't populate your world with characters. Build your world around your characters. Give creative freedom within the vision. Embrace a variety of tones and genres, and quality over quantity. Rob, do any of these particulars stand out to you? And are there any other lessons you might add to that you think James Gunn should take away?
I think those are sound. But, to me, I really think about this. Like, I think about the DC universe. What I like about it is the 3 Zack Snyder, call them Justice League, call them Superman movies, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and his version of Justice League. Love all those. I love Wonder Woman. I love James Wan's first Aquaman movie. And I like The Flash. So if you
so do I. By the way, I love the first Shazam. I really did.
Well, yeah, and I'm just going to say, but those core Justice League films, all of them, in 10 years, 20 years, I think people will look at them collectively and go, these are good films.
I'm not so sure. I hope you're right.
I mean, I think, but whereas Shazam 1 and 2, because Shazam was not part of that initial. Yeah, I like that initial. The first Shazam didn't. Yeah. But the other movies didn't, and they just underperformed at the box office. Flash underperformed at the box office. Wonder Woman 2 underperformed at the box office. But the 3 Snyder Superman movies, I like them. I think they're very respectable. I own them all. I can watch them and enjoy them. The thing was, like you said, it had no coherent vision. And I think what's really interesting is there's this weird... Like, I don't think that James Gunn's Superman is in competition with anything else. They're starting from scratch and building something new. The economics are not to be compared to something that happened over 10 years ago. They've spent the money on 2 movies, The Peacemaker Season 2, Lanterns, and however much development they've already spent on Clayface or whatever else they've made. So you have to look at it's not about the box office grosses of Superman. It's about they've made probably over $1 billion monetary investment already into the entire new DC universe or DC studios. They're like, okay, this is how much we've invested. The real question is going to be, where are they at when James Gunn's contract comes to an end? In 2 years? They're going to look at, did we get what we needed from the Lanterns TV series? Did Peacemaker 2 perform? Was Superman or Supergirl a hit? And they're going to look at, okay, we spent, and that's what people don't understand. And all this box office rigmarole is annoying because you have to see where they're at after all this money that they've already spent. What's the ROI on that? So we'll see. We don't know. And we'll never really know, but it'll be interesting to look. And I think the thing that's most important about what you said is you have a singular vision and you have somebody that knows if a script is good or not.
Yeah.
And somebody that knows, okay, if this
it's not being determined by a boardroom of suits.
No, that are willing to cut bait at any time. And like with David Ayer, it's like, we don't like what you're doing. We're going to second guess you. And even though that movie made $750 million, it could have made more. They just made these willy-nilly decisions to save their own ass because they wanted to get their bonuses before the AT&T merger.
Who was the CEO of Warner Brothers when AT&T? Tsujihara. So for those of you who forget this, this is a major thing. With whatever problem, again, I like both versions of Justice League, but I prefer the HBO one. But remember, they dropped that on Joss Whedon and said, and they gave him this laundry list of things, and they said, oh, by the way, it's got to be out by Christmas. Joss Whedon went back to them and said, I need to the summer. And they said, for me to put this together, I need till the summer.
Right.
And they said, Kevin Tsujihara said, no, and as Deadline exclusively reported, the reason they said no was because Tsujihara knew what was in the wind. He was going to be on his way out, and his bonus check for the year would only count the Justice League money if Justice League came out in that calendar year. And it's that type of interference that hopefully James Gunn, now that he is CEO of DC, won't have to put up with.
No, and we also know that the real sad part about it is that essentially Zack Snyder had a cut of the film. It wasn't done, his black and white cut that's on his computer. What it needed was they just didn't get to finish it. Because of the great tragedy in his life and what happened. They should have just finished that movie. They could have just done what they did with Zack Snyder's Justice League. He probably wouldn't have been able to release a 4-hour version, but he could have done something, and they could have just finished that vision. And who knows what would have happened, but they're like, nope, they second-guessed him. And it's interesting because Batman...
Well, I mean, to be fair, as a lover of Man of Steel, to be fair, they second-guessed him because the audience wasn't getting on board with it.
Well, but yeah, that's right, but still, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, it cost a lot of money.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, it's reportedly cost $450 million, and that's not even including marketing. It's that
okay, if you're including marketing.
Yeah,
okay,
I mean, you could include marketing. I don't know, but it didn't make even $900 million worldwide. And they were expecting this. The studio thought, we got Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman in a movie.
Billion and a half.
I mean, billion and a half. They were expecting those Avengers numbers, but they didn't do the work. So it was problematic. So it didn't do what the studio wanted to do. And that was a perception that they had because they thought they were going to get $1 billion. They were still looking for those bonuses from the AT&T merger. They thought, well, we've underperformed. They didn't want to have that. And, they blamed Zack Snyder more than anything else, and they shouldn't have. It wasn't fair to do that.
Here's where the big thing happened to me if you remember this, it was in between, then we need to move off this topic because we're falling behind.
Yeah.
After Batman versus Superman, and I mean, again, a Batman versus Superman movie should have had the potential to be a $2 billion film. But after it happened and it had some critical backlash and audience backlash and whatever, there was a real moment where Warner Brothers was going to just remove Zack Snyder from Justice League and change direction. Ultimately, it's what they should have done. Because instead what they did was they put him, what do they call it?
Well, they'd already been shooting it, though.
Jonathan, what do they call it again when a manager's on his final year? Lame duck.
Oh, yeah.
They basically put him in there knowing that they got him to do it, and yet they still interfered a lot and all that kind of stuff. It just would have been better, I think, for Zack Snyder, for everybody involved, had they actually just had the guts and pulled the plug on it. But they were just weeks away from starting to shoot, and they didn't want to invest the extra money that it would cost to retool.
And they also should have released the ultimate cut as the theatrical version. I think it would have done
the
better.
Batman vs. Superman? I don't know. I'm not so sure I believe that's a better version. I mean, the Justice League one, the HBO version, was the better version. I'm not so sure about the other one. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What advice would you give to James Gunn? What would you say to him were he to call you and say, hey, what can I learn from the DCEU with everything that happened there to make sure we are on the right path with the DCU? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.